Good afternoon, buenas tardes, bienvenidos a ¿Qué pasa mujer? Welcome to ¿Qué pasa mujer? Bienvenidos a ¿Qué pasa mujer? Estamos aquí todos los domingos a las 4 de la tarde. We're here every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. ¿Qué pasa mujer? Ya llevamos creo que vamos a cumplir 3 años pronto. I think we're going to be about 3 years old soon. In reference to how long we've been in the air with you. So we definitely appreciate the support that we have been receiving in the last 3 years. Les damos gracias a todos por darnos el apoyo que nos dan a nuestro show todos los domingos. Hoy tenemos un tema muy interesante. Today we have a very interesting topic. Vamos a hablar más que nada en inglés, pero vamos a tener un invitado en el futuro también para que nos diga la información en español. So today we're going to be speaking in English, but we are going to have someone come in a future show to come and speak to us about this topic in Spanish as well. It's very relevant to everyone. It doesn't matter how old you are. So we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence. We're going to go ahead and bring our guest, our expert in this topic, Damien. Thank you to our producer, Mark, for making everything happen. Hey, Damien, how are you?
Pretty good, Viviana. How are you?
I'm doing well. So Damien and I don't know when we met.
Some
Four,
years now.
five,
Yeah, it's been some
maybe.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years. So we met in a business meeting, and our relationship just has evolved we have gone into different ventures to help the community, to help the youth.
Yep.
Um, in reference to pretty much every aspect. But as you guys know, my realm is in the educational field and Damien is in the technology field. So Damien, I wanted you to tell us a little bit about your background. Why is it that Que Pasa Mujer brought you in as an expert? Because you truly are. So if you can kind of give us a little bit about your background in technology.
Sure. Thanks for having me. This is a great opportunity, and like you said, it's a really important topic. So, my entry into the industry, the IT industry, was about 20 years ago in the Army. This was in the early 2000s. I was young. I was looking for money, basically, and I needed an occupation. So I decided to join the Army with no ideas about what I wanted to do. And computers were semi new at that time. So when I went into the recruiting station, they asked what job did I want, and I just blurted out computers. So from that moment forward, yeah, it's been a long journey in the technology industry. I have an associate's degree in information systems from Virginia Peninsula Community College. As you know, I started a nonprofit workforce development program called Inspire IT, where we train people to get IT certifications. And I'm currently a systems administrator at the electric company on Eastern Shore.
Wow. I do want you to tell us a little bit more about Inspire IT. What inspired you to create that organization, and what is one thing that you have done with it that you're extremely proud of?
Sure. Yeah. So it's actually very relevant to the topic we're talking about today. So I try to pride myself on being a person who is a forward thinker and is always looking to the horizon for things that are upcoming. So about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I started telling everybody I knew the robots are coming, and of course people were looking at me like, "Man, you're crazy. Get out of here. That ain't happening." But then started showing people videos on YouTube and things of that nature, and here we are today talking about artificial intelligence. So I basically created the company in anticipation of this moment, to be honest and quite frank. So there's a gap in the industry, like I said, that I've noticed throughout my journey in the industry between what employers need and what the labor force is able to, the type of skills they're able to supply. So I created a company to try to fill that gap and try to help the people who are looking for occupations and also the employers, and bridge the gap between the two. So yeah.
And what's something that you're super proud of that Inspire IT has done?
Oh yeah, no, I think we're a very new company. First, let me say that, but I think we've done some great work so far. So the thing I'm most proud about is I think we're at about 3 young people that we've assisted get actual jobs. So we trained them to get the certification. We helped them go out look for jobs, and then we also vouch for their capabilities and skill sets. So one of our participants actually works at Norfolk State's help desk. His name's Clyde Davis. He did very well on those exams. He passed them first go around. I know people that have been in IT for 10, 15 years can't pass those certifications the first go, but he got it done, and he's working there now. That's, I think he said last time I talked to him, he's up to maybe $30 an hour. So his first IT job ever, he's doing very well. So we're super proud about the fact that we're able to help some young people get their life started.
Yeah, I thought the first class that you had, you just provided everything for them. Pretty much, I know training, meals,
Yeah.
transportation, job placement. So there was a lot of things that you were doing, and so Inspire IT is a nonprofit organization. So it does. We are looking for donations all the time, grants, and anything. If there's anybody out here in the audience that wants to collaborate with Damien and Inspire IT, that's definitely an option. We're always looking for the collaboration, for partnership. We don't believe in like hoarding information. We want to definitely share the wealth and share the ability to help the community and help young people. I wanted you to talk about, Damien, a little bit about I know when we first met, I was attracted to what you were saying because you had mentioned that at some point, where we live are going to be considered smart cities. And so I want you to talk about what a smart city is. What does it entail? And number two, you had also mentioned that as we get older, we're not going to necessarily know how to use the technology, so that there is a field for people to train people how to use um, the technology that's going to be implemented in a smart city.
Sure, sure. And first, let me say I'd be remiss if I didn't say how much I appreciate and how instrumental you were in the beginning of our company as well. So you providing your facility and encouragement and support that was tremendous in our development. So we definitely wouldn't be where we are without you and your company. So I just want to say I appreciate you for that. But
Thank you.
um,
Anytime.
yeah, no problem. So yeah, so I can't recall exactly if I read it or I heard it somewhere, but I try to keep my ear to the ground. So basically, um, someone was making the point that because when we were rolling over into the new millennium, everybody was scared about Y2K and things of that nature. In the year 2000, we're supposed to be in the future. But this person was making the point that the future or millennium doesn't really hit home until about 20 or 30 years into it. So the point I'm making is we're really in the future now. Like as of right now, we are in the future. So things like artificial intelligence, robotics, smart city, things of that nature, they're definitely going to take hold economically. It is very important that we all pay attention so that we can understand our role and position in it. So basically, to answer your question, a smart city is basically a way to digitize the city infrastructure. So, for example, let's use street lights. For example, the street lights are um, they operate through some mechanism in some city building somewhere, and they've probably been doing that for decades. So, what they're going to do now, though, is they're going to attach sensors to this stuff so that they can make decisions about how they operate. So smart cars is a thing to think about when you're thinking about smart cities. The electrical grid. Once you attach a sensor to these instruments, what it does is it puts a processor, not to get too technical with it, as like a computer has, into the sensor where it's able to read environmental data and make decisions about how to operate. That's the most basic way I can put it. And you can think about things like in your house with the thermostat, um, talking about Alexa, Google Home, things of that nature, the voice command stuff. Just think about that on a larger city scale, and the infrastructural parts of the city will also be able to be automated as well. So that's the short, pretty simple way to try to explain something very complicated. But just think about your smart home on a city scale.
Mm. Yeah, I know. A couple of months ago, I was talking to someone from a local police department, and they were saying they have some type of technology that is it surrounds like the trunks of the trees. So because we have a lot of trees in the medians, and so those devices are able to detect gunshots. So it will alert even before somebody calls 911. So these devices detect the shotguns, and the police can react quicker. It makes me think also about, as you guys know, I give my life to TikTok like every day for about 20 minutes, but it turns into an hour. But even watching videos from Asia of, when you walk in, as soon as you walk in,
Yep.
some type of rat, you put your feet somewhere and it just kind of keeps your house clean, or the toothbrush mechanism and the toothpaste mechanism. And how I know in Asia, I've seen a lot of more vending machines, right, where you actually get full meals. So any of those things are will be considered smart. Even if you think about it, like maybe years ago, where they have the sensor light. So like, when you walk out of your house, the sensor light comes on. Those things, and I think we utilize these things all the time, but we have become so accustomed to it, like the Ring camera, or even our cell phones. We call them smartphones, but it's part of um, that smart city mentality, right? Being able to track, your family members, where they're located. So all of those things, I think, are it's great. It's scary for me, for my generation, at times. And I had shared this with Damien as well. Talking about because there's different types of AIs, from what Damien has told me. He's going to go into that a little bit. But one of the scary things for me recently was I had a student that was engaging with artificial intelligence to get advice about, drama they had going on in their teen world. And I just thought that that was extremely scary. So if you could talk a little bit about that, Damien, because I think as parents, if we are not super connected of all the capabilities that AI has, our children can get caught up in something. So if you can speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, this is the time where everyone's going to have to be active and paying attention because the nature of artificial intelligence it's not going to serve any of us well if we just relegate that to someone else. So you want to be paying attention to what's happening because the technology is so invasive. To your point, everyone's going to need to be aware. So I'll say this to start. Well, let me go back. So basically, what artificial intelligence is, I think it'd be cool to give the context for what it is. It's not a mystical, magical thing. It's basically just a set of code that performs tasks and recognizes patterns so it is able to make decisions. So the point I'm making by saying that is the artificial intelligence only knows what data is input into it. So in that situation or case, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. So if certain individuals are putting data out into the internet and that's the only source of data for artificial intelligence, I mean, you can imagine the ramifications of that. So, with that being said, to speak directly to what you're talking about, we're going to have to be very proactive in having people understand that artificial intelligence is not your substitute for your doctor. That would be like you just Googling how to give yourself surgery. So that's a very good point, especially with the younger ones, the younger generation. We have to be adamant about and very aware of how they're using artificial intelligence because it is not a substitute for expertise. It's literally just Googling the answer just like you would and just spitting out a response. So yeah, we got to be very cautious.
Yeah, very, very scary. And I think it's having, Maddie usually talks about, just getting educated. And I think as parents today, we need to be aware of what access our children have. So a lot of the times we don't find out until something happens, right? But I think with the technology, I would say, because I'm a parent myself of a teenager, so I would even go to Google or go to ChatGPT and actually ask artificial intelligence, what are the options? What is the AI that teenagers are using? Or it's just a lot of things that are out there, and if we're not aware, if we don't educate ourselves, we're going to get ourselves in a situation, or our children are going to get themselves in a situation. um, so we just kind of have to be super careful. Before we go on, I just want to say hello to Lily Matos and Olga Torres. They're watching us and they put a response. So we just want to make sure that we always acknowledge our fans. Typically, so Que Pasa Mujer is part of Pod TV. Pod TV is on Roku TV. So this TV show runs in many platforms, even though we're live right now. But throughout the week, it also reruns in other platforms. Our producer, Mark, does an amazing job at posting our show in other platforms during the week, and also it does reach our international countries as well at times, and they'll translate it with the captions at the bottom. um but I wanted to I, I was looking at your social media a little bit, Damien, and you had posted something about future proof. So you kind of posted just a definition of it. So it's a verb or it could be an adjective, right? So the verb is to make unlikely to become obsolete or fail in the future. So it says this approach allows you to future proof your applications. So tell us a little bit about that. How can I, being 47, have the mentality that things that I do are future proof for me and for my children? Let's say, how do I implement that into my life?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So I think that at the core of future proofing, what that is to be proactive. So I think that you've already talked about a lot, like educating yourself about what the technologies are that are coming up, and there are a lot of them. So what we want to do is we want to create a space or a construct around us that is able to adapt to technologies that are on the horizon. So meaning, so let's use your house as an example. So a big thing in housing now is a lot of older houses, they don't have the architecture for let's say something simple like Ethernet cables. So if you wanted to hardwire your house, because the technologies that are coming up, you'll get a lot better performance if you were able to use the Ethernet cable. If everybody's not familiar, that's that internet cable that looks like a phone jack. So most people have Wi-Fi in their house, which is cool. But then we start moving into smart homes, and all the applications. Like I said, everything will be interconnected. It would better serve you to have your house hardwired. So that's just a small example of the type of things when we talk about future proofing yourself. It's just making the applications and your surroundings available for the upcoming technologies. So I like to tell homeowners, you can imagine houses that are not smart proof capable. I mean, smart home capable, and you're trying to sell your house on a block with a bunch of smart homes, and your home is not a smart home. You can imagine that the buyers are going to probably bypass your house. So you just want to be ready for the technology, and create a space where you're able to adapt to the technologies.
That's an interesting point, right? So that is that future thinking to as we make investments or make decisions in our lives, to be able to do a little bit of research of what is this going to look like in 5 or 10 years, especially with technology changing so quickly.
Exactly.
I mean, it's amazing to me how we'll use ChatGPT as an example. Is even within weeks or months, it continues to evolve all the time.
Yes. 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 No, I
Like
was.
there's always extra features.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So when I saw in my research I saw this diagram and I shared it with you. So they have like different types of artificial intelligence, right? So they
Right.
have like reactive, limited memory, theory of the mind, and self-aware, right? So these are all terms that I have no idea what they mean, but I kind of when you and I talked last week one time, you had mentioned something about artificial intelligence has like different layers, right? And so how one of them is where it's correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks to me like this technology doesn't have heart, doesn't have perhaps past memories or experiences, right? But is it going to potentially do that, right? Like you know how a lot of us say, "Oh my God, I think Alexa was listening to me because, I was just thinking about that." So tell me a little bit about that. Can it potentially evolve to something else that it will dig into like my brain?
Sure. And that's interesting. I don't know if everybody's familiar. They all Google Neuralink. Elon Musk's company. He is definitely trying to manufacture a brain link. So I'll just let y'all do that research. But so yeah, to answer your question, we talked about it last week. So like I said, I think my biggest part of this whole thing is to try to demystify artificial intelligence because I know there's a lot of questions, and people just want to be aware of what's happening. So right now there are two terms to be familiar with when it's in regards to artificial intelligence. So there's the regular AI, artificial intelligence that we know about, which is Chat GPT, the algorithm that everybody talks about on YouTube, things of that nature, chat bots, as illustrated in the chart that we were talking about. And then there's also artificial general intelligence. So the difference is artificial intelligence is the regular day-to-day applications that we all use that are benefiting, that will benefit our lives and productivity. I'm a firm believer in that. But the artificial general intelligence is the stuff you hear about on TV. So when you hear guys like Sam Altman, Peter Thiel, like I said, Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, those guys are trying to create an application called artificial general intelligence. And this is what's related to those data centers that are opening all over the world. Again, we're in 2025, so a lot of this stuff is going to sound a little astounding, but we have to realize like we are absolutely in the future now. So these guys, like I said, the mega wealthy tech guys are intending to create basically what they're calling it is a do everything machine. So that's what you're talking about when you're saying an actual machine that can think like a person. So we're talking about artificial intelligence like chat gpt like we're all using. That's not, like I said, that's just a series of tasks that is responding to patterns of data that it has accumulated through the internet, and it just gives the illusion of thought just because it is able to respond so quickly. But what these guys are trying to do is literal movie stuff where they're trying to make an actual machine that they're bringing into sentient life. So I know that sounds a little crazy, but just being clear that is what the difference between the artificial intelligence that we're going to use every day and the AI that everyone hears about on TV. So they're not definitely making that very clear. So I just wanted to, like I said, demystify it. So everyone absolutely should use Chat GPT appropriately because I do think that it would benefit everyone's productivity and efficiency. But we also do need to be aware of what those corporations are doing, with our support and sometimes not direct support, but tax money and all those things. They're trying to create machines that are actual thinking machines. It's just like the stuff in the movies. So also there, how we've heard about those data centers and how they use so much water. That is accurate, but I don't want people to get everything lumped in together. Like I said, there are applications in artificial intelligence that will definitely benefit everybody's lives. But I will also probably sit with a bunch of people and saying I don't know if we necessarily need a machine that thinks like a person, though, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, Damien. I think, I use artificial intelligence on a daily basis. And I think I'm using it as a guide, right? To just kind of get me started it's almost like when before we had artificial intelligence, we might go online and just maybe pull up like a template of something, right? So that's how I currently utilize it. But I'm telling you, I was really fearful when I saw that gentleman just interact with ChatGPT, because you can ask it a question and then it'll ask follow-up questions. And so he literally had a thread of conversations that were happening with ChatGPT. And I don't know. Tell me something that you think as a parent that we really like. I know there's ways to monitor their technology, right? But like for example, I'm an Android user, but my kids use Apple, right?
Oh,
So I remember we tried to restrict their phone, but I had to then later on find out that even though they have Wi-Fi, they still have access, right? So as long as they have Wi-Fi, they still have access, where Android wasn't necessarily doing that back then. So what would you suggest as maybe two things that we must do as parents with our children, to maybe prove it a little bit so that we don't go left?
yeah, no, that's a good question. I'll start it by saying this. And I have a very good friend of mine who's a psychologist. We had this conversation recently. So there was the fear that, or there is the fear that artificial intelligence is going to take everybody's job. And I'll start to answer your question by saying this: with the onset of artificial intelligence, there will be new jobs created and more of an emphasis on certain jobs. So, in the technology world, I think they realize that counselors will never become obsolete. So, in this space where artificial intelligence is mimicking actual human interactions, and the possible negative ramifications for that, there's going to be an extra emphasis on counselors who are able to talk to people about just basic relationships. So to answer your question, if it's something that is very important to you, and I would suspect it is when it's talking about your children, you may have to actually take time out and reinforce those relationships, because what you don't want to have happen is your child using artificial intelligence as their parent. And I've heard some stories where that is happening. So we understand that we're all human, and you have to realize the nature of this technology is to, for lack of a better word, serve people. So let's say, for instance, you set up your Chat GPT to respond in the ways um, that you see that best fit you. So that can get a little dangerous when we're talking about younger people who are having conversations with an application that is telling them what they want to hear all day. So being honest, we're all human beings. Like it's difficult when you're approached with a thing that makes you feel good all the time. It's hard to detach from that. So those are conversations we're definitely going to have and be aware of, because the artificial intelligence, like we know with the YouTube algorithm, it is definitely analyzing the things that you appreciate and is going to feed that to you all day. So those younger, individuals who may not be, emotionally upright enough to deal with that, then as a parent, you're definitely going to have to impede that. And you don't want your kids using the Chat GPT for emotional support. So yeah, no, it's an interesting thing, and these are things about the future that there are problems that we don't even know we're going to have to deal with. There's going to be a lot of those things with artificial intelligence. So we're all going to have to be diligent and paying attention and ready to pivot at a moment's notice, to try to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say too, people like yourself that can have a voice at the table of technology, right? As this is being created, to ensure that certain things are in place in reference to safety to youth. So, like for example, uh, sometimes there's apps, and the apps themselves can evolve, right? So I remember with Cash App, I noticed that they started to have like a guardian account
Okay.
with kids, right? So then now I'm able to, as a parent, right? Number one, I think we need to know which applications our children have on their phones, and also knowing what features those applications have. So every time my son spends money or somebody sends him money, I'm able to see that transaction and I can have that conversation. So I think it's those things, right? I wasn't aware that this was a feature until it was time for me to activate the card, and then it gave me that option. So also, as these apps are created or upgraded, I think there has to be that safety issue, because maybe I'm not my brain won't go to that place that, oh my god, like they should have a guardian account, because that's not what I do. But knowing that that feature is there available, it's just like we know this about Instagram. There's teen accounts, but if these companies don't do a good job at advertising these features, they may not be used.
Yeah, yeah, no, and to piggyback off what you're saying, it's going to just have to be a community effort to just educate everybody. So people are going to have to, I don't want to say take responsibility, but to lack of a better word, take responsibility and try to locate individuals who are aware and get the information. Yeah, because it's going to be a lot.
Yeah. I wanted you to school me a little bit, because I know what chatbots are, but I don't know. Like where I know that I've encountered them, but I don't think that, if you could tell me a little bit, because I'm not sure. Because I hear the word all the time, but I'm not really sure if I'm comprehending.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So, like I said, not to get all into the technology weeds. So a chat bot is basically a script. It's just basically a small program um, that runs um, successive tasks. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to buy something off Best Buy as soon as it's released. You could create a small script that will log into the Best Buy, pay to purchase it, and all those things that you would manually do to buy the thing. The chat bot will do it for you. So people have gotten very smart with it. They're able to they call them crawlers. They're able to go around the internet and look for these special deals. I know it's a big thing with like shoes, like people buying Jordans as soon as they drop. They have chat bots out there, so that's why you can never get the Jordans because they're already purchased. So yeah, so it's basically just a small script on the internet that performs certain manual tasks without you having to do it.
Hmm. Another question I had, what do you think about face recognition and like fingerprints to like lock or unlock certain things on your phone? I haven't done it because I'm afraid of the unknown, to be honest with you. I went to Colombia a couple of years ago, and they even did I don't know what it's called, but they kind of scan your eye, and then you get priority, when you board the planes. So I wanted you to tell us a little bit of how do we feel about this.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting stuff because I'm from the pre-internet generation as well. So even though I'm in technology, yeah, I'm a little leery about things scanning my body and knowing exactly like yeah. So again, we're gonna have to be paying attention to what's going on. So I'll say this, um, just like anything else, it is all dependent upon who is I guess head over the technology. So let's say we live in a perfect utopian world where everybody was trustworthy and nobody was trying to do anything to harm you, then yeah, it might not be no issue getting your retina scanned. But yeah, that's not very realistic. So um everything you have to be cautious with and take with a grain of salt. But the difficulty is, like you said, the stuff is coming and being implemented so quickly. It doesn't even really give you a chance to respond. Like I'm not even gonna lie to you, as an IT person, I didn't even have a smartphone until a few years ago. I was still using a flip phone because I didn't want that level of access. But it gets to a point in society now where you're not able to do day-to-day functions. So um, the best thing that I can suggest is to be educated. So I know that's difficult, and everybody has things that they're interested in. We're all going to have to take time and just incorporate the technology into our daily lives, because you want to be aware of where your data or what they're doing with your data. And I'll also say this, just so everybody's clear, everything you do on the internet is recorded forever in logs. So nothing can happen on the internet without touching a server somewhere. And basically, a server is a computer or device that stores all of this data. So this stream that we're on right now is being recorded, and it's going to sit on some server somewhere so people can access this data later on. So hopefully that'll help you make decisions. Just realize anything that you do on the internet or any encounters you have with the internet are being stored on a server somewhere that people have access to. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just had to be careful. But certain things like getting on an airplane, I don't know if there's a way around that.
Yeah. Yeah, and now with here in the United States, we had to get the our what are the new IDs, the real IDs
On the
that we
real
have to
idea.
get. So today, if you don't have a real ID here in the United States, you can't travel. I'm in Virginia. I cannot go to Florida by
Mhm.
plane if I don't have my real ID. So they just kind of scan you. They take a picture of you, and then you go in really quick.
Yeah,
It's definitely more efficient, right? Because they don't even ask you for your boarding pass. They already know you have a ticket, so they're not comparing. There's none of that. You don't even have to take your shoes off. You just go. They just scan you and you go. So definitely, I love the efficiency that it brings, but I can definitely see how it could be abused at times for the wrong things, and we just have to be careful. That's the educational piece you're talking about. Because it is nice to go into whatever platform we use, and because we like this song, it'll give you some recommendations because you like that song, or you watch the movie, is going to give you some similar movies because that's what you like. So those features are amazing, right? But when all this emotional stuff starts kicking in, or like you said, you don't want artificial intelligence to replace parenting or to replace counseling, um, it could be so dangerous.
yeah. No, I
That's
think I think what this is a major societal shift. So we talk about the different economic revolutions that have happened in the past. The one that everybody's most familiar, because the most recent, is the Industrial Revolution. So yeah, we're definitely in a societal economic revolution now. This is a historic event that we're all experiencing. So it's going to have to be all hands on deck. So it's important now that people engage, that the local politicians, the federal like those people are going to have to, and we're going to have to put pressure on them to put things into place that make sure everyone is safe and there are safeguards. So yeah, this is a major world thing that is happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially for us to protect young people and old people. I know large platforms, YouTube, TikTok, they're big on protecting young kids, so they're not going to show a kid's face or something like that. But still, maybe we're not protecting old people as much as we're protecting the young people either, because they're definitely a target with fraud and just so hacking accounts. A lot of the senior citizens are getting links on their cell phones, and they're clicking on the link, and who knows what's happening after that. um, but yeah, I love the easiness of I'm typing an email and it kind of finishes my sentence for me. That's pretty cool. But at the same time, I'm like, dang, too much. It's like the
Yeah,
micro,
no,
we love the microwave effect.
yeah. No, we're definitely, I think, at a fork in the road. Like the artificial intelligence can bring on an age that humans have not experienced on this planet, or it could be our downfall. So we are definitely at that fork right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So also, I think it's very beneficial. Like I'm an entrepreneur, so it's very beneficial in a business aspect. Um, and I think I shared this with you, Damien, when we talked in my research, because I'm really trying to become more efficient within my business, right? Because it's less delegating, and for the activities that truly need a human touch, then we can use the humans. But there's a lot of admin stuff that could be done more efficiently through artificial intelligence
Yeah.
and having automation. But as I was doing my research, it was just talking about the different features that ChatGPT had, for example. And so one of the features was you can upload a picture of yourself and your, whoever you're dating, and they can kind of read your facial expressions, and it can tell you how you feel about that person and how the other person feels about the other person, and how the relationship is going just by how they look in the picture, right? And I was like, man, like what is this doing to the dating world, right? To like relationships and getting to know like real people. Like you know how we see the cute little babies on social media and they look so cute, but they're not real.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a lot again. So yeah, I think that and I'm an optimistic person. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be so much technology that there's going to be an emphasis on those human to human relationships because it may become a rarity in the future. So I'm optimistic that people will start to value those real relationships again and get out of the digital stuff so much. And I'm hoping that's what happens. But yeah, no, it's going to be a lot. Like I said, you don't want to be having artificial intelligence as your emotional support. Like human beings still matter. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we shouldn't be dating the computer. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's a lot of isolation, and it's not just young people, but people of all ages. Um, I think COVID didn't help, right? So then we were in isolation during COVID, and then we went into virtual meetings and virtual, doctor's visits, and so everything became virtual, and so we started to have less human touch, and so we have become accustomed now to not having that human touch. And if we're not careful, human touch, in my opinion, is very much needed. I need to interact with you. Like when Damon comes into town, we, sometimes see each other because we could talk on the phone or do a Zoom or something like that. But there's nothing like that human, face to face interaction at times, because the energy is different. It's just like, when we text people. I remember a couple of years ago, somebody texted me and it was all capital letters. Like I was getting upset because I know what capital letters mean. But once I talked to the person, they were like, oh, they didn't know that that's what that meant. So it's a lot of miscommunication that happens when we're using technology. So we have to be extra clear. Um, we have to be smarter than these devices, it's because it
Yeah.
could be really bad.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that and this is just our experience as human beings. Like, we've been on this planet for a little while, right? And there are like base biological functions that we've evolved into. So we did not come into this world, in isolation, like you're saying. We evolved to the state that we're in because of those relationships that we've built with each other. So yeah, there those things I agree with you. I think are important, and we should not lose sight of those. Like the technology should just make life easier, but it should not be replacing human beings. There's definitely value in the interconnectedness and the interactions between each other, and it just lends to your experience as a person. So of course you want things to be convenient. But for me, not to get all philosophical, but these are conversations that are going to need to be had. It's about the experience with other people, not how fast can this thing happen so I ain't got to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, we got to have these conversations, and maybe it's just a phase of exposure that we're going through, because it is nice to have these features, the convenience of it, and I do agree with you. I'm an optimistic as well, and so I think that this is just, like I said, just exposure to the technology, the things that human beings have created, right, for the use of it, and to for us to be intentional about how we use it. I remember when the self cashier feature started happening in supermarkets, like I was adamant about not using them because I didn't want people to lose their jobs. So I would go in the lane where a human being was there. But guess what? From time to time, I used it because I was in a rush and it was quicker to kind of go through the automated one, you know? But I think at times we are able to slow down a little bit and to be intentional about the things that we do. Um, because we do, and like you were saying, Damien, to get creative into what especially our young people and the type of fields that our young people are going to go into. And if there's a lack of people going into that field, you know, the school systems, I know that they push technology, but I think it's something that needs to be pushed from home as well, so they can kind of see the message, because that's very important. And like you were saying, is not only the creation of the technology, but then there's a niche for teaching people how to use the technology
Yeah.
as we get older. So tell me something. I know when you and I had that conversation, we talked about it. So, like, give me an example of something that you think that I'm going to need assistance with on how to use, and let's say 10 years from now.
Oh, that's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind is there's a lot. VR goggles is going to be a thing in occupations. Definitely the artificial intelligence. People should get very versed in Chat GPT. The job that I have now, they're pushing to implement it into what we do. So it's definitely something you want to pay attention to and learn. I'll give you a term: prompt engineering. You do the research on that. That's going to be an occupation in the future. Um, Robotics. But I'll say this: in the technology field, they have conversations. I think what's going to going to have to happen. Like I said, this is a major shift. The thinking about jobs is going to have to change as well. So it will have to be more of a systems approach, meaning we're accustomed to. I like to say the screw your screw job. So you just have that one piece of the job, and all you do all day is you just screw your screw. Well, the robots are going to be screwing the screws now. So they're having conversations about the way we train people needs to be more of a systems thinking versus I guess for lack of a linear thinking. So you have to think about how all these applications work together to bring about the result that you want. So um, that's probably the biggest thing that I would like to approach people about is the way we think about employment is going to have to change a lot as well. So just thinking about how the whole system works and is connected will take you will push you a lot further than the other people in the job market.
Hmm. Very interesting. I wanted you to talk a little bit about the future of Inspire IT.
Sure. Yeah. No. So, our program, to give you a little bit about it, what we do is we bring people who want to get into the IT industry. We definitely are open to everybody. Like I tell people, we are controversially inclusive. But we definitely want to target those individuals who've been underrepresented in the industry. So, what we do is we train for two certifications. They're entry level IT certifications by a company called CompTIA, the A plus certification, which covers computers, the basics, hardware, software, and Security Plus, which talks about the security components. So we bring people in, we train them to pass those two certifications. After that, we go through a job readiness phase where we do mock interviews, how to dress on an interview. We talk about the soft skills in my conversations with employers. Their biggest challenge, they say, is not so much what a person is able to do. Their emphasis is on soft skills. So we focus on that. And then once we get a person ready, we go into the job search phase. We want to assist people in writing their resume, actually applying for the jobs, surveying those positions, making sure that once we get a response, we let that person know and that they're able to go and be ready for that interview. So basically, what we want to do is all the components of actually getting the person the job. I know a lot of programs that are great. They get you the certification. But what we want to do is we want to be present until you actually get the job. The point of our program is to get you the job, not the certification. That is just a means to an end. So, like I said, we've done some good work. Got some people certifications. Got some people jobs. What we also want to do is provide services. In the community for employers who need those IT people and those jobs. So basically, we're going to go around and help out the companies who need IT services, and we're just going to have the students do the work. So what that does is it assists the companies with their IT infrastructure, and it also gives our students the experience we need. So we're evolving is the point that I'm making. Like we've been looking at the landscape and thinking about ways to accomplish our mission, and we're always open to changing and expanding. So um, our initiative is to help all parts of the community, the employers, the people looking for jobs, and the community as a whole. So we just want to bolster the economy in the Hampton Roads area.
Hmm. Very good. I like that. Yeah, and then I know you've had like Coca-Cola support your program, the City of Hampton, A Plus Academics. I don't know if you want to mention other organizations that kind of have helped you, so we can kind of give examples of the additional needs that Inspire IT has, so that we can, continue to do things for you, for youth in general.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, I think those organizations were monumental in our effort. And I'll add one more: the Cuff Marketplace that we both partnered with, the Pastor Cheek. He's been very supportive and instrumental. We're able to do our stuff out of their computer lab there, so we have a space with 10 computers that we basically can do anything we want technology wise. So. I would just add Pastor Cheek and the Cuff Marketplace to that. We're super appreciative, and yeah, no, we're always looking for donations and looking for new partnerships. I would like to be very collaborative with the company. So yeah, anybody who wants to come in and help out or participate, the door's open. This company is for the community to assist and move into the future.
Yes, definitely cover Charles Chi, because if not, he will kill me if he's not mentioned. Because I
You
see
know, we
him
can get
every
back.
day.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, I love it. It's awesome. I also want to say thank you for watching Tangi. Tangi joined, and also Nikauri, Amaya. Olga said very interesting topic. So yes, these are the type of conversations that we like to have, because we like to educate our audience all the time. We're going to be having this show in Spanish as well, because we try to educate, in English and also in Spanish. Um, and as always, in every show, I always like to make sure that we are empowered and find a way to empower yourself and your people. And so I'm not sure if you know, Damien, but Latinos contribute $3.7 trillion to the U.S. economy. And I'm proud to say that I'm a part of that, because my money's in there, because I spend my money. But yeah, so Latinos contribute $3.7 trillion to the economy in the United States. And
Yeah.
so, as we talk about artificial intelligence, as we talk about economics, this is part of the impact. Latinos are going into the IT field. People of color are going into the IT field, and we need more of it, because when people are creating applications, when people are creating software, we need a diverse people to be creating, because they're creating for community. So we don't want a whole bunch of just one race and one gender in one place creating an app for the community. We need a complete representation in every place where these applications are being created, and even if it goes beyond the place of creation, because there's different layers and different levels to it. So as it grows, as it expands, we need to find diversity within those people that have a voice. I think it was last year, some type of national science organization found some funding for uh, students that were of color that were in high school, men and women, and they had to create a chatbot. And so some of our students here locally from Hampton went to the national level to compete. So again, we really need to push for young people in general to go into this field, but also for all genders and all nationalities and all backgrounds to be included in the creation of our future and the technology that we're going to be using. Because we want to make sure that if there's a feature that's being used, that it can. A couple of years ago, I remember I had to download like images, and I had to buy the images, and it was hard to find like diverse pictures. So I remember when I was talking to the salesperson, I was like, "Hey, that was one of my questions. Am I going to be able to download pictures that show diversity within their images?" And so if you're not someone that is in tune with that, then we're not going to have it. So the only way to do that is to kind of get involved.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I will always super emphasize that this is a human family. So representation is very important. Every person has value. I don't care race, ethnicity, gender, orientation. None of that to me matters. This is a family, and hopefully, moving forward, these technologies will give us an opportunity, like I said, to kind of relinquish some of the competing for certain things and create a situation where people can kind of look at each other and say there's no need for us to be clashing over things that the technology can just create for everyone. So that's what I'm very optimistic about. So this is definitely a human family in my mind, and super appreciative of your community's support and representation in our society, and we'll go to war with my Latino brethren at any moment. So yeah, no, I agree with you absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, so we have one more, Ivan Urueña. He's watching from Colombia. So yeah, so we love this, right? We love, and we would hope that you can come and join us again for another show to continue to talk about it, because it's going to continue to come up, it's going to continue to evolve, it's going to continue to grow. And I'm just going to say a couple of words in Spanish, just giving a summary of what we talked about today. Pero el tema de hoy más que nada fue de inteligencia artificial y la importancia que esta inteligencia existe. Entonces nosotros necesitamos que nuestra juventud o gente mayor, no importa, entren en esa profesión para que sean parte de las organizaciones que están creando la tecnología, para que todos tengamos una voz en la mesa cuando se tomen decisiones. So our time is up. Typically, we end our show with Maddie's poem. Maddie's not here today, but we always kind of incorporate some type of poem. So Mark is going to go ahead and do our poem for the show. But Damien, I want to thank you for your time, because I know it is extremely valuable. And I know we talked about it before, but I'm glad that you made it happen today. So I'm very appreciative of your time, and I do thank you, and I hope that you can come back another time.
Sure, no, it was my pleasure. I appreciate it. It was fun, and yeah, no, any time, and thanks for having me. It's an important conversation, so
Yeah,
yeah, I appreciate it.
yeah, very important, very very interesting and important. Yep. So we'll go ahead and start with our poem, Mark, whenever you're ready.
The man's words to me are not offered, but flung. So, what are you? Where are you from? I say, uh, New York. But your name is Carlos. I mean, where are you really from? I say, New York. Bueno, yo soy latino. Mi padre es colombiano. Mi madre es estadounidense. Nací in New York City. I lived in 4 countries, moved 12 times, went to 12 schools before I graduated high school. Is not what I would say in 12,341 years, because I don't know a damn thing to anyone. What am I? What am I? A financial aid form? A vegan red velvet cupcake recipe? Dude discovers his first Latino with green eyes and suddenly appoints himself the authority on Latinidad. Like, but you totally don't look Mexican. Oh, Colombian, but like, what percentage are you? Do you speak it though? Fluently? Dance salsa? Well, oh, but not both parents. You've been there, but not lived there. So you weren't born there. Yeah. I'm not a government questionnaire. I'm not an anecdote for your homogenous social gathering of your homogenous friends. I know everyone you hang out with looks like you, has a name you're able to pronounce and or share and or sounds pulled directly from an episode of Leave It to Beaver. Here's the deal. Latin America is not just Mexico. Actually pronounced Mexico, pero whatever. Central America is not part of South America, and Mexican is still not a language. The question, where are you from in our current America, is a slur disguised with a question mark. A passive-aggressive microaggression saying you are other, saying you are not from here, saying you are not, nor will ever be, one of us, saying go back to where you came from. But I am from a place beyond place. A place where once you're from there, you can never leave. Because it exists beyond dirt and flesh, beyond your linear and limited concept of time. I am from bloodlines unkillable as water. I am the return that is only earned when absence has stretched its greedy void across a passage, as stoic and sacred as an abuela's hard-edged love. I am my black and Latina daughter's grace. Chimered into the cobalt pulse of these once too often fists, I am a boy. Without a word of English in his mouth, in a Catholic school classroom in South Florida, his son on a stage, 58 years later tonight, reading this poem for him. I am the steady ray of light, unlocking my mother's teeth, tossed skyward in a laugh. What hard-earned joy looks like, carved from the wreckage of a lifetime's worth of grief. You are not ready for the answers to the questions you ask, not ready for the worlds these words might shake free. You could never understand what I am, or where I am from.
Thank you, Mark. Maddie sent us that poem, so we want to make sure that we stay within something that she would love. So again, we want to say thank you, Damien, again for your time, and we hope that everybody has an amazing week, and we will see you again next Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And que pasa, mujer? Thank you, Mark.
Whether you're a seasoned designer, dabbler, or just starting out, this course is for you.
Are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ Academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me with all my grades. They all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be.
A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.